Part 13. Landing 300 Years in Advance. Author, Chao-Ji Dupang. Chapter 122. The familiar thing in the picture is the giant river crab that Chen Ronghuo has been raising for 2 months. He never thought that the big river crab would become so huge after getting those black and white mist. Is this considered a blessing? Chen Ronghuo's thoughts moved slightly. But just as he stared at the big river crab, the picture in his mind suddenly disappeared after a flash. After that, his consciousness also retreated from the inner space of the ancient book. However, he discovered that now he could still enter the inner space of the ancient book at any time as long as he wanted to. At the same time, when he exited the ancient book space, he already knew that as he broke through to the second level, the ancient book not only opened another sealed page, but also opened a new ability. This new ability is that he can capture certain information that is beneficial to him in a magical space, and convey this information to him in the form of pictures or text. What appeared in those pictures just now was some kind of message that was beneficial to him. This new ability is actually somewhat similar to the deduction ability of ancient books. However, this ability relies on ancient books to function and does not require any energy consumption. Thinking like this, Chen Ronghuo didn't know that the ability of the ancient book would have a huge impact on him in the future. Taking a deep breath, his consciousness suddenly fell on the pages of the ancient book. At this time, lines of writing appeared spontaneously on the pages of the ancient book. The white mist island you are on, and the black mist island are mutually reinforcing each other. Beiwu Island has the white mist spirit pearl, the island's treasure, and black mist island has the black mist spirit pearl, the island's treasure. The two spiritual beads were formed over millions of years on the two islands, and both have magical powers. Every 100 years, there will be more than a dozen random places on the two islands where Bilingwusha and Black Lingwusha are born. Those who have the Bilingwusha can hold the Baiwu Ling bead. If you get the Black Spirit Mist Soul, you can control the Black Mist Spirit bead. At the same time, every 1,000 years, more than a dozen black and white mist evils will randomly appear on the two islands. Those who have black and white mist evil can hold two spiritual beads in the same hand. 7 days ago, the semi-petrified river crab, which you had incorporated a lot of petrified attributes into, ate a wisp of black and white mist while eating soil. After that, it mutated and advanced into a second-level demon. Did you eat a wisp of black and white mist while eating dirt? Mutated and advanced to become a second-level demon? After getting this information through the ancient book, Chen Ronghuo suddenly looked strange. What is this called? If the crab sits at home, luck will come by itself? But then, he thought that once the matter was known to those knowledgeable people, he might not be able to save this big river crab. The Black Mist Spirit Pearl and the White Mist Spirit Pearl are the treasures of the two major islands, Black Mist Island and White Mist Island. He had heard about them from Huang Taizheng and others a long time ago. At the same time, when he went to the Misty Valley with Huang Lin and Zhu Deipen last time, he also got some information about these two spiritual beads when he used ancient books to identify things in the Misty Valley. Who wouldn't want to get such a treasure? Once a powerful cultivator learns that the big river crab has such a good fortune, how can he be allowed to keep it? Thinking of this, Chen Ronghuo immediately exhaled and stood up from the secret room. This time, the natural disaster demon flame that he refined revived, and he has become a serious natural disaster demon flame warlock. At the same time, as his soul power reached the second level, he could contract a demon again. In the past, the big river crab was too weak and he had no interest in making a contract. But now, as that guy has mutated and advanced to become a second-level demon, and has gained such a good fortune, he is already qualified to be contracted by him. Meow meow. While Chen Ronghuo was pondering this in his mind, the fat cat who had been following him in retreat saw him stand up, and his fat body jumped and fell into his arms. And rubbed his head against it, as if complaining that he ignored him for so long. Okay, I know you have worked hard. Isn't it okay to know that you have been wronged? When I have free time, I will definitely prepare the most delicious food for you. Chen Ronghuo smiled slightly, touched the fat cat's smooth hair with his hands, opened the secret room door, and walked out. As soon as he walked out of the secret room, he saw Huang Lin outside his secret room, walking around anxiously. What's wrong? He frowned. He knew about He Crab, but he didn't know that Ho San had been trapped in Xiaohe village for 7 days. Lord, seeing Chen Ronghuo walking out of the secret room, Huang Lin immediately stepped forward anxiously and said, I don't know what happened to that river crab you raised. In a few words, he quickly narrated what happened to Chen Ronghuo. Has that guy become so powerful? After listening to Huang Lin's narrative, Chen Ronghuo was a little surprised. He knew that the river crab had broken through to the 2nd level, but he didn't know that it had the ability to trap Ho San for 7 days. With this in mind, he hugged the fat cat and said, I know about this. I will go over and have a look. You can continue to stay in the town. Upon hearing this, Huang Lin immediately said, Lord, let me go. With your current status, you shouldn't have to do everything yourself. It doesn't matter. Chen Ronghuo waved his hand, I know what happened to that river crab, and it shouldn't take long for him to come back. In addition, you must issue a silence order to anyone in the town who knows about this matter. This matter involves a serious matter, and no news of it is allowed to be spread out. Yes. Huang Lin did not dare to say anything, he could only bow and walk out of the Lord's mansion with Chen Ronghuo. After leaving the Lord's mansion, Chen Ronghuo put down the fat cat, let it grow to the size of a tiger, let it carry him, and quickly rushed to Xiaohe village. In Lushwiven town, every town resident saw Chen Ronghuo riding the fat cat and flying past them, and they all showed respect. In the past few days, although Chen Ronghuo has been practicing in seclusion, under the management of the 50 people he recruited, the order of the entire town has returned to normal. After getting down from the wall of Lushwiven town, the fat cat stepped on the green water, splashing ripples, and moved very fast. Chen Ronghuo sat on the back of the fat cat, and his consciousness fell on the ancient book. Chen Ronghuo, 2nd level early stage natural disaster magic flame warlock, 2nd level early stage demon magic warlock. Soul power, LV2, primary. Flame strength, LV2, elementary. Soul control, LV2, elementary. Flame control, LV2, elementary. Note, each time the level is upgraded, various abilities will have a period of substantial improvement. Special Ability 1, Flame Affinity Add 2. Due to the revival of the Calamity Flame, the flame affinity is further enhanced. The current level is LV2, Advanced. Special Ability 2, Calamity Flame, 2nd order early stage. You can directly use the Calamity Flame to attack or perform secret arts. The Calamity Flame has the characteristics of curse, disaster, corrosion, and entanglement, and has extremely strong destructive power. Special Ability 3, you can use the Calamity Flame as the core to practice secret arts such as curses. Abilities, Soul Telepathy, Soul Controlling, Soul Thorn, Blazing Flame Rope. Contracted Demons, Fat Cat, Colorful Spirit Butterfly. Demon Contract Vacancy, 1. Thanks to you. Yuan Fang for the 100 coin reward. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 123. When Chen Ronghuo saw that after he was revived by the natural disaster flames and advanced in cultivation, among his special abilities, only his flame affinity increased by 1 point. In other respects, there was only one more person who could use natural disaster demon flames and could practice secret techniques such as curses, and his eyes moved slightly. Compared with Zhou Yuanhua, his attributes can be said to be far behind. But if his natural disaster demon flame is really at the same level as Zhou Yuanhua's earth disaster mother insect, will his ability really be inferior? I don't know how powerful the super destructive power of the natural disaster demon flames is in the introduction in the ancient book. There was a bright light in Chen Ronghuo's eyes, and he really wanted to experiment now. It's just that the fat cat is too fast. While he was thinking this, Shamao was already carrying him, and soon passed through Shanghe village and arrived near Xiahe village. The billowing black and white mist shrouded the entire Xiahe village, and you could see it from a distance. Especially in the black and white mist, there vaguely seemed to be a behemoth the size of a house, running and roaring, but it seemed that all sounds were locked in the two-color mist and could not be heard, making this sound impossible. Everything is a bit more terrifying. Tell me. Who are you and what are you doing here? On the mountain behind Xiahe village, Zhu Deipen stepped on a guy with a body like a skinny monkey and asked sternly. Not long ago, he found this man not far from Xiahe village, looking around and acting suspiciously, so he caught him. Sir, have mercy on me, my lord, have mercy on me. I am just an ordinary villager from Yuanshui village. I went to Giant Crocodile village not long ago to visit relatives. I noticed something strange here, so I came over to see what was going on. I am really not a bad person. I beg you, sir, to spare my life. The man was crying, with runny nose and tears. Seeing this man's appearance, Zhu Deipen frowned. This man is only at the middle level of the warrior realm and does not look conspicuous at all. It is not impossible for him to say that he is from Yuanshui village. Yuanshui village is also one of the affiliated villages of Lushwiven town. It's just that Yuanshui village is upstream of Lushwiven town. He doesn't know anything about it and doesn't know if this person exists. Tie him up and deal with it later. After thinking for a while, he ordered one of his men. He is not very capable, but he can do his job well. Huanglin told him that he couldn't let the news from here get out, so he couldn't let the news from here get out. Hearing what Zhu Deipen said, the man immediately became anxious and said hurriedly, Sir, there is something urgent at home. My wife is going to give birth in a few days. I have to go back. Please be merciful and treat me as a child, just let it go. I promise not to say anything about what happened here when I go back. Where does all this nonsense come from? Zhu Deipen had a headache when he heard this, and he kicked this guy in the air. Of course, this kick is not very powerful and can only cause a few pains to this guy in the middle stage of the warrior realm. After his men tied up the man, he raised his head and looked in the direction of Lushwiven town. Village chief, when did you say the Lord can come out of seclusion? If he doesn't come out of seclusion, Ho-san will not be able to hold on go down. Huang Tai's hung on the side was equally anxious. He glanced twice at the rolling fog in Xiahe village and said, wait a moment. If that doesn't work, I'll go down and support Ho-san. 2 people are better than 1. Whoosh. But just as the two were talking, an orange flashed in the distance. Immediately afterwards, Chen Ronghuo rode a fat cat. After a few flashes, he quickly rushed to the two of them with a strong wind. Lord! Seeing Chen Ronghuo, Zhu Deipen suddenly let out a long breath. Lord, you are finally out of seclusion. Ho-san has been trapped down there for 7 days. I am almost dying. Stop talking nonsense, Chen Ronghuo thought about Zhu Deipen's words, then glanced at the man who was tied up by several warriors and said, what's going on with him? When the man saw Chen Ronghuo, he immediately knew that he was the big shot, so he quickly said, Sir, have mercy on me, my lord, have mercy on me. I am an ordinary villager in Yuanshui village. I just went to Ju Crocodile village to visit relatives. Songfang Ming. Cultivation level, middle stage of warrior realm. Identity, Black Tiger Town Spy. When the man was looking for a reason for himself, Chen Ronghuo identified his information using ancient books at a glance. Looking at the man's deliberately crying look, he sneered, I have registered everyone in Yuanshui village. Why haven't I seen you? This. When the man heard this, he was startled. However, he seemed to have received some special training. After being startled, his expression immediately changed, he stopped crying, then looked at Chen Ronghuo and said coldly, "It seems that I can't hide it from you. But that doesn't matter, don't you want to know my identity? Then let me tell you, I am a spy from Tongluo town. Also, if I guess correctly, you should be Chen Ronghuo, the new lord of Greenwater Bay Town, right? Our lord knew that Greenwater Bay Town had changed its owner, so he asked me to come over and take a look. Take a look at your town of Greenwater Bay. Is it suitable for friendship or hostility? Causeway Town?" When Zhu Deipen and Huang Taizheng heard this, their expressions immediately changed slightly. The lord of Causeway Town is a sky warrior and a viscount. If the person in front of them is really a spy from Tongluo Town, they may have to treat him with caution. Because Causeway Town is the closest town to their Greenwater Bay Town. There is only Black Tiger Leader Town between it and Lushwiven Town. The lords of the Black Tiger territory have to pay tribute to them every year because they are close to the important town of Causeway. If the important town of Causeway also wants to take advantage of their Greenwater Bay Town. Are you really a spy from Tongluo Town? At this time, Chen Ronghuo also seemed to frown slightly and asked quickly. Of course, the man nodded. Chen Ronghuo's speech speed increased slightly when he heard this, and he said, "Then do you think I am suitable for friendship or hostility? I just came here and I was captured by you." "How did I know?" the man shook his head. Chen Ronghuo raised his eyebrows and then said, "In that case, what else did your lord Xuejun say before you came over?" "Our lord said." Halfway through the words, the man's expression suddenly changed. "Xuejun is the leader of their Black Tiger territory. Rather than the lord of the Causeway City. Say, why don't you say anything?" Chen Ronghuo's voice was slightly cold. "Your Majesty is really good at it, no wonder he was able to capture Greenwater Bay Town from Zhou Yuanhua." The man sighed, cupped his hands towards Chen Ronghuo, and then said nothing. It was only then that Zhu Deipen and Huang Taizheng on the side reacted. They all looked at Chen Ronghuo with expressions of amazement. They didn't expect that after Chen Ronghuo came over, he revealed this person's true identity with just a few words. Chen Ronghuo secretly shook his head. The reason why he did this was to show them to the two of them. Otherwise, he wouldn't have bothered at all. Thinking of this, he waved his hand, and a wisp of black-red flames emitted from his hand and wrapped around the man. He wanted to use this person to test the power of the natural disaster demon flame that he had just revived. At the same time, you should also practice your courage by killing someone. Since he came to this world, if we really count, he has not killed anyone. As for Ho-san, he knew that he was not in danger yet. Ah! A shrill howl sounded, and black-red flames fell on the man, immediately igniting him into a torch. The black and red flames were entangled, and in an instant, the man was burned into a pile of ashes, and when the wind blew, there was no trace left. There will be another chapter later. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 124. Chen Ronghuo turned his head and was stunned when he saw that the man just let out a miserable howl, and then his body was burned by the flames of the natural disaster and turned into ashes. A warrior in the middle stage of the warrior realm was gone just like that. He took a breath, and a sense of fear came to his mind. It was not the fear of killing. But he suddenly thought, will he encounter such an irresistible enemy in the future, and then make himself disappear from this world with a wave of his hand? However, this thought just flashed through his mind and was crushed by him. Now, it is useless for him to think about these things. he just needs to keep getting stronger. At the same time, Zhu Daipen and Huang Taizheng were also shocked when they saw Chen Ronghuo kill the man with a wave of his hand, or wipe him out from this world. This is not the first time Zhu Daipen and Huang Taizheng saw Chen Ronghuo take action. But this is the first time they saw Chen Ronghuo kill someone, so clean and neat. After killing the spy from Black Tiger Town, Chen Ronghuo turned his head and set his sights on Xiahe village, which was shrouded in a large area of black and white fog. Black and white fog evil, can fascinate the mind and prevent the sound from being released. The naked eye can see that the distance is less than 1 meter, and it can also limit the release of soul power. To break this fog, you can only use super strength or have special means to deal with it. You may try to use the sealing ability of the ancient book, or use the natural disaster magic flame to burn these fogs. Natural disaster magic flame burns black and white fog evil. After identifying the properties of this fog, Chen Ronghuo was slightly startled. He had expected to seal this fog with the sealing ability of the ancient book. But he really didn't expect to burn this fog with the natural disaster magic flame. Thinking of this, he looked at the river crab hidden in the black and white fog evil, which seemed to be moving its huge body, and his heart moved slightly. Then he said to Zhu Daipen and Huang Taizheng, "Ho San will be fine for the time being. Wait for me here for a while, I'll be back soon." As he said this, he immediately communicated with Fat Cat through his consciousness, and asked Fat Cat to take him away from Xiahe village. What is the Lord going to do? Zhu Daipen looked at Fat Cat carrying Chen Ronghuo and disappeared quickly, with a puzzled look on his face. I wonder why Chen Ronghuo didn't save Ho San, but ran away instead. Huang Taizheng on the side smiled and said, "The Lord said Ho San is fine, so Ho San must be fine. And this river crab was raised by the Lord, and the Lord must know how to deal with it, so we don't have to worry about it next." After Chen Ronghuo ran 2 or 3 miles on Fat Cat, he saw a small rolling hill in front of him, and immediately asked Fat Cat to stop and turned over and got off it. Then he walked quickly to the hills, stretched out his left hand, and touched one of the small hills. After his cultivation broke through to the second level, the ability of his left hand also increased. After he put his left hand on the hill, not long after, he touched out a number of hill attributes from it. This attribute is a bit strange, it is named after the word hill. After Chen Ronghuo touched out more than a dozen hill attributes from a small hill, as a gust of wind blew, the small hill suddenly disappeared from his eyes. This is really disappeared, not because the structure is loose and it was blown away by the wind. This is the first time Chen Ronghuo tried to touch the hill, so he was a little surprised to see this scene. But such a surprised thought only passed through his mind, he shook his head, quickly walked to another small hill nearby, and reached out his left hand again. In this fantasy world, doing scientific research will only give him a headache. As his left hand continued to touch, another hill soon disappeared. Then he moved his figure, and soon, he touched 10 small hills that were no smaller than the river crab, and all of them were destroyed. Meow. The Fat Cat next to him saw this scene, and his whiskers curled up. He stared at Chen Ronghuo's left hand with his eyes, and thought of the scene where Chen Ronghuo touched him with his left hand countless times. His heart trembled slightly, and his cat legs became a little weak. "Let's go." But Chen Ronghuo didn't have time to care about the Fat Cat's thoughts. After touching the properties of 10 small hills in succession, he immediately turned over to the Fat Cat's back, let it carry him, and rushed to Xiahe village again. The Lord is back. At the back of Xiahe village, Zhu Daipen saw Chen Ronghuo returning, and his eyes suddenly lit up. But when Chen Ronghuo passed by Zhu Daipen and Huang Taizheng, he just nodded to them, and let the Fat Cat take him and quickly rushed into the black and white fog below. Whoosh! When Fat Cat rushed into the fog with him, the two-color fog enveloped him, and he suddenly found that his visibility was only 1 meter away. But he was prepared for this. Without waiting for Fat Cat to stop, he used the fire control technique that reached level 2 to control the black and red natural disaster flames, turning them into a wave of fire and burning forward. Whoosh! After the black and red fire wave, the black and white fog in front of him suddenly made a sizzling sound, and in the blink of an eye, a large blank was burned out. Then he consumed his soul power, and after a brief calculation of Hosan's position, he controlled the natural disaster flames to burn the black and white fog, and rushed towards Hosan. Bang! Suddenly, just after Chen Ronghuo had used the natural disaster flame to burn out another clearing, a tall figure suddenly fell heavily on the clearing in front of him. However, this tall figure stood up again just after falling to the ground. He stepped on the ground with both feet, and released a strong fighting spirit from his burly and upright body. It seemed that he was getting stronger and stronger. At this moment, an even larger figure flashed and appeared in the clearing. This huge figure was the mutated river crab with 2 large claws in black and white. Lord! At this time, Hosan, who sensed that something was wrong with the surrounding environment, looked back and his face suddenly showed excitement after discovering Chen Ronghuo. Yeah. Chen Ronghuo nodded, and then set his eyes on the big guy who came sideways, but paused slightly after seeing him. Mutated petrified river crab, early stage of the 2nd stage. Talent potential, currently 4th stage. Characteristics, infinite strength, strong defense. Special ability 1, the body is integrated with a wisp of black and white fog, undergoing a transformation, and can control the black and white fog to form a foggy area. Special ability 2, the body can be enlarged by swallowing soil and rocks. The larger the body, the stronger the strength and defense. Note, this talent can be improved by integrating more attributes similar to petrification. Thanks to ZZG for the 500 coin reward, Mo and Book Friend 201812031128121118 for the 100 coin reward, and everyone's monthly ticket recommendation votes landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 125. Infinite Power? Strong Defense? When Chen Ronghuo identified the new attributes of this big guy, a hint of excitement suddenly appeared on his face. Now, he has no worries about attack power because of the resurrection of the natural disaster magic flame. The fat cat is as fast as the wind and can advance or retreat. In addition to the 7-colored spirit butterfly, this auxiliary demon, what he still lacks is just such a tank. When seeing Chen Ronghuo's expression, the river crab, which had paused slightly after seeing him, subconsciously moved back another step. It clearly remembered that in the past, every time Chen Ronghuo wanted to play with it, he would show such an expression beforehand. Although it has become much stronger than before, the psychological shadow of being played by Chen Ronghuo for many days is not so easy to eliminate. Lord, I don't know what good fortune this river crab has obtained. Not only can it spit out 2-color mist, its strength and defense have also become extremely powerful. Seeing the river crab stop, Hosan walked to Chen Ronghuo's side with caution. I know. Chen Ronghuo waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, I know how to deal with it." In the distance, the river crab heard Chen Ronghuo say this, and his expression froze, and he moved back a little. After such a long time, it has been able to understand many human words. After it moved back a little, its 2 protruding eyeballs turned, and suddenly waved its large white claws and fell to the ground. Facing Chen Ronghuo, it quickly drew a thick horizontal line on the ground. After the horizontal line was formed, it turned its head and pointed at Chen Ronghuo with its large black claws, and said in a muffled voice, "Boy, don't think I'm afraid of you. You retreat now, from now on, we will not interfere with each other, otherwise." Swish. You talk too much nonsense. But before it could finish its words, Chen Ronghuo suddenly stretched out his hand and released a several-meter-long black and red rope from his hand. After the black-red rope shot to the river crab like an arrow, it bent and wrapped around its body. This move was the blazing flame rope he used based on the natural disaster magic flame. The river crab looked at the heart-pounding black-red color sweeping towards him, and the rest of the words were stuck in his mouth. Then, seeing that the black-red flame rope was about to fall on him, his two large claws, which were thicker than a person's embrace, quickly knocked in the air, and in the black and white interweaving, it released rolling black and white mist evil, facing the black and red blazing flame rope. Sizzle! It was as if cold water was poured into hot oil. After the black and white mist evil came into contact with the natural disaster magic flame, it immediately boiled violently. In a short time, many black and white mist evil were burned by the natural disaster magic flame condensed into the flame rope. Although the black and white mist evil is powerful, it is nothing compared to the natural disaster magic flame. Perhaps if this river crab is luckier and gets the black and white spirit beads, it can still compete with Chen Ronghuo. But now, even if Chen Ronghuo does not use the sealing ability of the ancient book, he is not afraid of it at all. Boom boom boom. Seeing that Chen Ronghuo actually broke his most powerful reliance in the blink of an eye, the river crab looked at the black and red blazing flame rope that had only faded half, and its 8 legs moved quickly and retreated. It wanted to escape, away from the devil Chen Ronghuo. But when it was escaping, it couldn't help but said stubbornly, "Boy, do you really want to kill me quickly? I tell you, I haven't shown my power yet, I will show my power." Whoosh! This time, still without waiting for it to finish, the fat cat, under the command of Chen Ronghuo, surrounded by the breeze, like a phantom, carried Chen Ronghuo and quickly approached the river crab. Then the fat cat jumped up and landed on the broad back of the river crab before the river crab could swing its claws. Meow! After reaching the top of the river crab, the fat cat roared immediately. Along with the roar, the power of dragon and tiger emanated from it. Then it controlled the power of wind and blessed itself. But this time, it did not want to make itself lighter, but wanted to make itself heavier. It wanted to press the big guy down. In the past, it was worried that the big guy would be harmed by the knocking ghost. During the days when Chen Ronghuo went to Misty Valley, it dragged this guy into the house every day and dragged him out in the morning. Because of the experience of those days, in its eyes, this big guy was just like its little brother. Now this little brother thinks he has some strength, so he wants to make trouble and turn the world upside down. How can it let him? After the river crab found that Chen Ronghuo and the fat cat were on its back, it immediately waved its 2 big claws in fear and swept towards them. Seeing the river crab's claws sweeping over, Chen Ronghuo waved his hand without haste, and a circle of natural disaster flames appeared, forming a ring shape, wrapping him in the middle. With this circle of natural disaster flames, if the river crab wants to sweep it with its claws, it must first break through the circle of natural disaster flames. Even if this river crab really has the courage to break through the circle of natural disaster flames, he will still have time to let the fat cat carry him off it. In addition, he also has the sealing ability of the ancient book that has not been used. It was just as Chen Ronghuo expected. After feeling the amazing temperature emitted by the natural disaster flames, the river crab stopped its 2 large claws halfway through swinging in mid-air, and dared not move forward even half a step. Its body is similar to stone. But being similar to stone does not mean that it is not afraid of Chen Ronghuo's natural disaster flame. On the back of the fat cat, Chen Ronghuo saw that the river crab stopped moving, and he turned over and rolled down from the fat cat's back. Then he squatted on the flat and wide back of the river crab and pressed his left hand down. Before, he integrated a lot of petrification attributes into the body of this river crab, making it mutate into a semi-petrified river crab. At that time, the petrification attributes he integrated into its body had reached the limit. But Chen Ronghuo guessed. This big guy got the origin of black and white fog this time, and after further transformation of his body, he could probably integrate more similar attributes. At the same time, When he identified its attributes before, the description in the ancient book clearly proved this point. And this time, what he integrated into its body was the hill attribute he had obtained before. The hill attribute and the petrification attribute have certain similarities, and this river crab is very compatible with this type of attribute. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. Plop. After Chen Ronghuo integrated 8 petrification attributes into the body of this big guy, it suddenly fell to the ground with a plop. Even if it was extremely powerful, after integrating 8 small hill attributes into its body, it finally couldn't hold on any longer. Whoosh! After the river crab fell, Chen Ronghuo immediately hugged the fat cat's neck and jumped off the river crab's broad back with it. Snap! After landing on the ground, he snapped his fingers and summoned a wisp of natural disaster magic flame that exuded a destructive breath. It shook in front of the river crab, and then seemed to move this wisp of magic flame closer to its body. Don't burn me, I surrender. I really surrender. My body is full of stones, it's not delicious. Hearing the words of the river crab, Chen Ronghuo smiled strangely, and then re-identified its attributes. Sorry, I went out to get a new SIM card today and waited for 3 hours in the mobile lobby, so the update is a little late. The other updates will probably be in the evening, but don't worry, the 5 updates will definitely be guaranteed. Thanks to Winter is Not Cold for the 500 coin reward, for the 300 coin reward, and Cliff and Book Friend 201810202205267997 for the 100 coin reward, and thank you all for your monthly ticket recommendation votes at #@ Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 126. Mutation Hill River Crab. Hill Attribute Add 8. Integrated with the attributes of a large number of small hills, the body is extremely heavy and cannot be supported by its own strength, so it can only eat earth and rocks every day. By chewing on earth and rocks, the body can quickly grow in size. The body will grow as much as it eats earth and rocks. The length, width, and height of the body can be up to 8 times longer in 1 year. At the same time, the cultivation level can be upgraded to the middle stage of the second level. As its body grows larger, its strength and defense will skyrocket. After its strength skyrockets to a certain level, it will be able to walk again. After mountain river crab's cultivation reaches the peak of the second level, he only needs to eat a small amount of earth attribute spiritual objects to advance to the third level. After re-evaluating the attributes of this river crab, Chen Ronghuo was slightly startled. He didn't expect that this guy could actually improve his cultivation by eating it. Even this guy doesn't even need to eat anything else, he only needs to eat dirt. Even from the middle stage of the second level to the third level, there are only a small number of earth attribute spiritual objects. It's really easy to make a living. Chen Ronghuo had to sigh like this. Are you really convinced? Then he looked at the big man in front of him and asked. The big man said in a low voice, I'm really convinced. As long as you don't burn me and eat me, I promise not to run away, and you can play whatever you want. After incorporating a ray of black and white mist evil origin, its spiritual intelligence seems to have been developed a lot. I can now have a simple conversation with Chen Ronghuo. At the same time, when Chen Ronghuo first asked Ho San and Zhu Deipen to catch it, the scene of cooking another river crab in front of it did indeed form a deep psychological shadow in its heart. In other words, it is not an exaggeration to say that it is a lifelong psychological shadow. Chen Ronghuo smiled. He also remembered that when he was cooking another river crab, this guy kept mumbling about what's wrong with you, young man. After laughing, he summoned a demon mark that was newly derived from his soul power after reaching the second level. It was still the same as before, slightly emitting a scarlet light, like a demon mark, like a blood-colored lantern. After being summoned by Chen Ronghuo, the bloodline mark was in front of Shanshan Hexi in an instant. Now that you've accepted it, I will integrate this into your soul. I don't want to be too much trouble, so you'd better not resist. Chen Ronghuo spoke calmly. At the same time, he raised his hand to create a wisp of black and red natural disaster flames, like the source of flames full of demonic nature. It rose freely in the palm of his hand, exuding bursts of disaster aura. Shanshan Hexi trembled for a while and quickly closed his two protruding eyes. Call out. When the mountain river crab closed its eyes, Chen Ronghuo controlled the demon mark and quickly imprinted it from the center of its eyebrows to the core of its soul. In the distance, Ho San stood on the same spot. Looking at Shanshan Hexi's huge body, lying on the ground unable to even stand up, his eyes were a little dull. For 7 whole days. Because he couldn't get out of the fog. By this big guy. I was sleepy for 7 whole days. But he didn't expect that after Chen Ronghuo arrived, he would be unable to move even in an instant. He took a deep breath, and after a moment of loneliness, a more intense and fierce fighting spirit bloomed again. Call. At this time, Chen Ronghuo also integrated his newly derived demon mark into the depths of the mountain river crab's soul. Although this big guy is powerful, it has a deep psychological shadow on him. In addition, it is not a normal step-by-step breakthrough, and he has no strong heart. So Chen Ronghuo made a contract with it to become his third demon pet without much effort. After the contract ended, Chen Ronghuo walked up to it, stretched out his left hand and patted it. The hill attributes that had just been integrated into its body were all touched out by him. Then Chen Ronghuo jumped up, hugging the fat cat, and jumped on the big man's back. Come up together, let's go back to the territory. Then he turned to Ho Sandeo. Thank you, Lord. Ho San hesitated for a moment, and with a bit of curiosity, he jumped on the back of the mountain river crab. Boom boom boom. Shanshan Hexi received Chen Ronghuo's order and immediately carried him, Shamao, and Ho San to the back hill of Xiahe village. At the same time, it also followed the command of Chen Ronghuo's consciousness, and while running, the remaining black and white mist around it was put away. After being contracted by Chen Ronghuo, it had obtained some simple information through the demon contract. After knowing who he is, he will probably follow this devil all the time. Chen Ronghuo stood on the back of the mountain river crab, watching it run quickly with him, and his heart moved slightly. Guess how big this guy can grow in the future? This is a world where demons and gods exist. He was wondering if this big guy could grow to be as big as an island in the future. If he can, then he can move his territory to the sky, and then he can become the river crab lord. Judging from the current situation, it is definitely impossible for this river crab to grow into the size of an island. But if he gets the black mist spirit bead and the white mist spirit bead in the future, and lets this big man refine these two treasures, that may not be possible. As far as he knew, the black mist spirit pearl and the white mist spirit pearl, in addition to possessing various strange abilities, were also treasures that could enhance qualifications. Once this big guy refines both spirit beads and improves his qualifications, he will definitely be able to incorporate more hill attributes. Even mountain attributes, mountain range attributes. In that case, it is not impossible for this river crab to grow to the size of an island. Has that big guy been subdued by the Lord? On the back mountain of Xiahe village, Zhu Daipen and Huang Taizheng have been looking down. They saw that soon after Chen Ronghuo rushed into the black and white fog, the two-color fog began to dissipate rapidly. Just when they were anxious and didn't know what was going on inside, they saw the two-color fog that permeated the entire Xiahe village actually dissipated in a short time. At the same time, as the fog dissipated, Chen Ronghuo and Ho San, riding on a giant river crab nearly 6 or 7 meters high, rushed towards them quickly with a rumble. Also fell into their eyes. Seeing this scene, they were all stunned. But then, both of them showed a strong surprise. They all saw the fighting power of this big guy. Even Ho San was trapped in it for 7 days, so you can imagine how powerful it is. After Chen Ronghuo subdued it, it was obviously equivalent to their Ziahe village having another powerful fighting force. Come up, let's go back to the territory together. After arriving next to Huang Taizheng and Zhu Daipen, Chen Ronghuo faced the two and the few men they brought with them this time and spoke. It always feels awkward to read after writing, so I rearranged the page with the wrong punctuation marks at. Thanks to Wandering Fire for the 500 coin reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 127. Lord. After hearing Chen Ronghuo calling him to go up the hill to hunt crabs, Zhu Daipen was startled, then suddenly knelt down and said, "Lord, I messed up the task you assigned to me, please punish me." Chen Ronghuo shook his head and said, "Get up, I didn't expect this to happen before, it's not your fault." "No. It's not just this big guy." Zhu Daipen said ashamedly, "I sent people to look for your colorful spirit butterfly everywhere these days, but I didn't find any trace." Hearing this, Chen Ronghuo showed a strange look on his face and said, "You didn't find it because it has been hiding from you. Let's go, I've asked it to wait in front." "Hiding from us?" Zhu Daipen was stunned when he heard this. Chen Ronghuo shook his head. "The colorful spirit butterfly is too timid. Since I asked it to leave 7 days ago, it has been hiding." In the middle, it found that Zhu Daipen and others were looking for it. Even though it knew a few people, it didn't dare to come out, but hid deeper. Fortunately, when he rode the fat cat over, he had already sensed the position of the colorful spirit butterfly. And through the demon contract, he sent it some simple messages. Boom boom boom. After Chen Ronghuo called Zhu Daipen and others to the back of the river crab immediately spread its 8 legs and ran sideways towards the direction of Greenwater Baytown. After Chen Ronghuo took back the hill attribute, even if it was a little clumsy, it relied on its huge size and terrifying power to run at a speed no slower than that of an ordinary second-level cultivator. After running like this, a few minutes later, the group saw the colorful spirit tree swaying in front of them. The colorful spirit butterfly hovering above the colorful spirit tree, after seeing the huge size of the river crab, almost immediately controlled the colorful spirit tree and fled. Chen Ronghuo shook his head helplessly and had to send another message to the colorful spirit butterfly through the demon contract again. After breaking through to the second level, his soul power can be released to a distance of 100 meters, but it is not possible to release it too far. However, by using the demon contract, he can communicate with his pets a few miles away. It is just like making a phone call. After a moment, the big guy led a few people and ran sideways to the 7-colored spirit butterfly. 7 days later, the 7-colored spirit tree grew taller. It is already nearly 4 meters high. Chen Ronghuo estimated that he could probably integrate a few more attributes into its trunk. Seeing the big guy coming in front of him, the 7-colored spirit butterfly immediately controlled the 7-colored spirit tree under the command of Chen Ronghuo and lifted up a tough branch. "Daipen, you take it," Chen Ronghuo ordered. Zhu Daipen, who was standing by, heard the words and hurriedly reached out and grabbed the branch, and also pulled the 7-colored spirit tree onto the big guy of the hill crab's back. Soon, the big guy took a few people, a tree, and a spirit butterfly and set off again. Because Chen Ronghuo came out of retreat too late, it was almost evening. He asked the big guy to take a group of people to make a few circles in a remote place. It was not until an hour later, when it was completely dark, that he asked the big guy to rush to Greenwater Baytown. When he was close to Greenwater Baytown, he and Hosan, Huang Taizheng, and Zhou Daipen jumped off the back of the river crab with the colorful spirit tree. Looking at the large green water in front of Greenwater Baytown from a distance, Chen Ronghuo said to the river crab. Go, you will stay in this water from now on. Don't show up when you have nothing to do, don't scare others. Don't use your ability to create black and white fog. In the night, the river crab blinked its two big eyes and looked at the green water in the distance, a little excited. After so many sunrises and sunsets, it can finally return to the water to live again. Just when it was thinking this, Chen Ronghuo suddenly raised his left hand, patted it, and merged the 8 hill attributes that he had taken out of his body into 7 of its body. As the 7 hill attributes merged into its body, it immediately felt its body sink, as if it weighed 100,000 pounds. All 8 crab legs trembled slightly. Feeling the heaviness of its body, it stared at Chen Ronghuo with its stone-like eyes, stunned. I don't know why Chen Ronghuo still plays with it like this after he subdued it. Seeing this big guy looking at him like this, Chen Ronghuo waved his hand and said, "Okay, let's go this time. You don't have to look at me like this, I'm doing this for your own good. You can eat more and grow stronger this way. You go into the water first, and when you get into the water, I'll find time to help you again. The General of Heaven has entrusted this crab with great responsibility, and he must make him suffer and work hard. Otherwise, how can it bear the burden of a huge territory in the future?" And what he called help was naturally that there would be time to give this big guy the attribute of the 8th hill and integrate it into its body. Now there are no external enemies in the territory, so it is better to hide this big guy and let it improve its strength as soon as possible. Then wait until the critical moment, and then release it as a killer. The river crab has become Chen Ronghuo's contracted demon, and naturally cannot resist Chen Ronghuo's orders. In the end, he could only look at Chen Ronghuo with resentment, take slow steps, and walk towards the green water in the distance. "Let's go too." Seeing the river crab leave, Chen Ronghuo also took others along the road and rushed to Green Water Bay Town. Welcome the Lord back to the territory. When Chen Ronghuo walked to the water side, the guards stationed on the water side immediately retreated to both sides after seeing Chen Ronghuo, and spoke in unison. Chen Ronghuo glanced at the dozen guards on the green water side, nodded slightly and said, "All retreat." The guards hurriedly retreated after hearing this. Plop! At this moment, in the distance under the night, there was a sound of heavy objects falling into the water. Hearing this huge noise, all the guards were startled and all drew their weapons. "Don't worry about this." Chen Ronghuo glanced into the distance and waved to the guards. Immediately, he took the colorful spirit number, the colorful spirit butterfly, and several men, and took a wooden boat to the Green Water Bay Town. Lord. After returning to Green Water Bay Town, Huanlin and Li Haishui rushed over after hearing the news. Chen Ronghuo nodded, and then brought a group of people to the meeting hall. Sitting on the Lord's throne, he glanced at a few people and said, "This time, it was my mistake. It has nothing to do with you. But for this matter, everyone who knows about it must be gagged and prohibited from spreading any information. Especially the information related to the black and white fog created by the river crab. Don't worry, Lord, no information will be spread about this matter." The expressions of several people were solemn when they heard this. Chen Ronghuo was so serious, obviously this matter was of great importance. After hearing the assurances from several people, Chen Ronghuo nodded and said, "The second thing I want to tell you is about how to develop our territory. Next, I plan to build another town with Shanghe village next to Lushwiven town as the center. Then all the villagers from the surrounding dozen villages will be relocated to the new town. No matter how difficult it is to say something, you have to carry it out. I'll stay up late tonight, and there will be 2 more chapters. I'll continue eating spinach tomorrow. Thanks to Yeshalu for the 900 coin reward, and Suiyu Tiankang for the 100 coin reward. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Depeng. Chapter 128. Chen Ronghuo received more than 10 years of education in Earth Star. Even if he comes to this world, some of the things he learned on Earth Star will not be discarded. Although Earth Star cannot compare with the vastness of the world of gods, it still has its own characteristics, and there are things the world of gods can learn from. On Earth, of course. His country had also experimented with merging several villages into towns. And only a few actually succeed in the end. But he has ancient books and the power of his left hand, so it will definitely be different. Build another town with Shanghe village as the center. When Huang Taizheng and others heard this, they were all startled. They did not expect that Chen Ronghuo would actually propose such a development route. Huang Lin thought for a while and said, "Lord, the reason why the villages are scattered around instead of gathered together. One is because of the cultivated land, and the other is because almost every village has its own specialties. Only if they are distributed everywhere can they produce enough output every year. While supporting yourself, you can also support Lushwiven town. And once they are brought together, the nearby farmland will definitely not be enough to allocate. At the same time, without all kinds of special products, the annual income of these villages will also be greatly reduced. This is definitely a fatal blow to them." At this point, Huang Lin paused and did not continue. He knew that Chen Ronghuo had probably thought about what he said before speaking. He brought it up at this time, just because he wanted to hear what Chen Ronghuo planned. "You're right." Chen Ronghuo nodded after Huang Lin stopped and said, "Generally speaking, it is really unreasonable to merge several villages into a town. But my idea is that next, the main direction of the development of our Lushwiven town should be on the power of faith. We must obtain as much pure power of faith as possible in the shortest possible time. Only by gaining a large amount of faith power can I and you also be able to quickly improve your cultivation. As a lord, he can gain faith. But after he obtains the power of faith, he can also reward some of his excess faith power to his subordinates to speed up their training. It is for this reason that sometimes, the power of faith can be used as currency between lords. But a few people still don't understand. I don't understand how Chen Ronghuo, a villager in more than a dozen villages, obtained a large amount of pure power of faith when his income was greatly reduced." Seeing the expressions of several people, Chen Ronghuo continued, "I know what you are most worried about is food. But I can solve the food problem. I have the means to greatly increase the output of the existing crops in Lushwiven town. Let a piece of land produce crops several times, even 10 times, than before. Under such circumstances, the time those villagers spend working every day can be reduced. From now on, they will no longer have to be extremely tired every day like before. Then we can send people to open schools in new towns to teach them knowledge. And organize people to organize some activities or performances to enrich their lives. Crop output is more than 10 times greater than before." After listening to Chen Ronghuo's words, Huang Lin and others felt short of breath. They were all farmers originally, so they naturally knew how terrifying it was that the crop output from the same land was more than 10 times that of the original. Zhu Deipen's eyes were slightly red and he said, "Lord, can the crop output of the same land really be more than 10 times the original?" Seeing the expressions of several people, Chen Ronghuo smiled and said, "I said yes, of course I can. So this matter is settled. 3 days later, when the village chiefs of those dozen villages come over, I will announce this to them. And once the town is built." Chen Ronghuo turned his head and focused his gaze on Huang Taizheng, paused and said, "This newly built town will be managed by you, Mr. Huang." "Lord, I can't do it." When Huang Taizheng heard this, he quickly waved his hands with a red face. Among the more than a dozen affiliated villages in Lushwiven town, especially the villages upstream of the river, several villages have very large populations. The total number of villagers in more than a dozen villages is probably the same as that of Lushwiven town, with nearly 10,000 people. Asking him to manage a town of nearly 10,000 people made his scalp numb just thinking about it. Chen Ronghuo smiled when he heard this. If you can't control it, then I'll give you 2 more people who are good at management. Of course he knew that Huang Taizheng did not have that ability, but after a new town was built, someone must guard it. Huang Tishan's strength is neither strong nor weak, just right. At the same time, when he first became the Lord, he arranged for Huang Taizheng to temporarily serve as the guard team of Greenwater Bay Town, just for today. Okay, after making some arrangements for the time being, Chen Ronghuo said calmly, I just came out of seclusion today, and I am just saying this to prepare you. We will talk about the rest in 3 days. You are all very busy during this period, so please go back and rest today. In addition, tomorrow, Mr. Huang, don't forget to arrange the seeds of all the crops in Lushwiven town. I will go and take a look then. Lord, you should also rest early. Hearing what Chen Ronghuo said, Huang Taizheng nodded immediately. Then he, Huang Lin, and Ho San all stood up from their seats, said goodbye to Chen Ronghuo, and walked out of the meeting hall. After the 3 of them left, Chen Ronghuo glanced at Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui beside him and said, You are tired these days, go and rest. I have something to do later, so you don't have to accompany me. Yes. After hearing what Chen Ronghuo said, the 2 bowed and retreated. Meow. After everyone left, the fat cat suddenly came out from some corner, and fell into his arms in a flash. Chen Ronghuo smiled and touched the fat cat, then hugged it and walked out. A few minutes later, he walked slowly and came to a cell in Lushwiven town with strict guards. Sir. Seeing Chen Ronghuo, the guards in the cell area quickly stood up straight. Yes. Chen Ronghuo nodded to the guards and said, I'll go inside. You stay here and don't let anyone in. Yes. The guards responded quickly. In addition to some criminals from the original Greenwater Bay Town, this cell also holds those stubborn people from Greenwater Bay Town who became the Lord not long ago. At the same time, it also includes those officials such as the bald middle-aged man and his relatives. Chen Ronghuo came here this time just to experiment with the ability of his left hand on these people. He has never been able to fully feel out the attributes of a living person. He doesn't know how many attributes a person has and how many attributes he can feel out. Ahem, I'm stuck. It takes 2 hours to write 1 chapter. I really can't do it anymore. I'll make up for the 5th update tomorrow. I can't work anymore. If I work harder, I'll be useless. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 129. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the silent night, the fat cat shrank its body, turned into a stream of light, and entered the cells one by one. Not long after, it used its claws to knock out all the prisoners in the cells. Then Chen Ronghuo took the key he got from the guard, opened a cell door, and walked in. Song Quan, Martial Arts Aptitude 1, Midterm Apprentice Level Martial Artist, former leader of Greenwater Bay Town, was imprisoned for committing adultery. After entering the cell, Chen Ronghuo randomly found a person. After using the ancient book to identify his attributes, he squatted down and put his left hand on the person. Qi and blood add 1. Plus martial arts aptitude add 1. Bone hardness add 1. Soul origin add 1. Wisdom attribute add 1. After his cultivation broke through to the 2nd level, Chen Ronghuo's left-hand ability also increased. For such a guy who was just an intermediate martial artist apprentice, he found a lot of attributes from him in a short time. Qi and blood, martial arts aptitude, and strong bones are all very important to Chen Ronghuo. He can use these attributes to create a group of elite martial artists in a short time. Soul origin, wisdom. At the same time, what surprised Chen Ronghuo the most was the soul origin and wisdom attributes. This was the first time he found these 2 attributes. Then he kept moving without any mercy. In just a few minutes, he found all the attributes in the body of this man named Xuanhuan. After all the attributes in Xuanhuan's body were found, Chen Ronghuo waved his hand, and he disappeared completely in the cell as if he had never existed. After Xuanhuan completely disappeared, Chen Ronghuo stood up with a thoughtful look on his face. He followed him to the side of another person in the cell, thought about it, and integrated the attributes he had just obtained into that person one by one. I want to experiment what effect these attributes will have after being integrated into other people's bodies. Touch the attributes, experiment. Touch the attributes again, and experiment again. As time passed, Chen Ronghuo had a great understanding of the various attributes in the human body through repeated experiments and the identification techniques of ancient books. For example, martial arts qualifications. The martial arts qualifications he obtained can be integrated into almost anyone's body. But almost everyone can only integrate one martial arts qualification attribute, and that's the limit. The same is true for the soul origin attribute and wisdom attribute. Everyone's soul attribute and wisdom attribute are similar, with only a few points. 1 or 2 points less, 3 or 4 points more. At the same time, he can only integrate one of these two attributes into other people's bodies at most. He tried to integrate it into his own body, and the result was the same. When these two attributes become stronger, they will make a person smarter. This kind of intelligence not only means thinking about things more easily and clearly. It can also speed up a person's practice of martial arts and secret techniques. Qi and blood attributes. After this attribute is integrated into other people's bodies, it can make people feel like they have taken a tonic, and their blood and qi will increase, and the martial artist's cultivation will be improved. As for how much of this blood and qi attribute can be integrated, it is related to the cultivation of the person being integrated. The higher the cultivation, the more blood and qi attributes can be integrated. In the experiment, one night passed quickly. In one night, Chen Ronghuo wiped out several unforgivable people. As for other people, he also found out many important attributes and stored them. Among them, there are 2 common water sorcerer qualifications and 1 wood sorcerer qualification. In the morning, he walked out of the cell with a refreshed face. Don't tell anyone about what happened last night. Looking at the guards standing upright in front of the cell, he said. Yes. The guards responded quickly after hearing this. And those who woke up a long time after Chen Ronghuo left were all drowsy. At the same time, everyone found that their martial arts cultivation that they had practiced for many years had disappeared. In addition, they seemed to have lost something, but they couldn't find it after checking. This made these people very frightened. They didn't know what happened last night. The man surnamed Chen is a ghost sorcerer. Could it be his ghosts and gods who did it? Some prisoners talked a lot and seemed very confused. As far as they knew, the only ones who could suck people's blood and qi were those ghosts. After the sorcerer level was advanced to the 2nd level, Chen Ronghuo's energy became extremely strong. Even if he didn't sleep for 10 days and 10 nights, there would be no problem. After leaving the cell, he quickly found Huang Taizhong again. Then he and Huang Taizhong came to the grain depot of the former Green Water Bay town. The person in charge of the grain depot was an old man with a white beard. This old man was a late-stage 1st-level wood sorcerer. On that day, Chen Ronghuo almost wiped out the officials of Green Water Bay town. But he kept several sorcerers from the former Green Water Bay town. Liang Qian, greet the Lord. Seeing Chen Ronghuo coming, the old man immediately saluted Chen Ronghuo. Yes, Chen Ronghuo nodded. Open the granary, I'll go in and take a look. Yes. Hearing this, Liang Qian immediately opened the door of the granary for Chen Ronghuo. Walking into the dry granary, Chen Ronghuo immediately saw a huge round granary inside. Big white rice, the most common crop in the God's continent, high yield, delicate taste, and sufficient nutrition. Crescent soybean, a high-yield crop that can be used to make oil. Chen Ronghuo inspected the granaries one by one. Finally, he walked to a remote area on the left side of the granary. Big white rice seeds, seeds selected by the wood sorcerer Liang Qian, the per acre yield is 20% higher than directly planting ordinary big white rice seeds. Yellow heart cabbage seeds. Seeing these seeds, Chen Ronghuo's eyes flashed, and he said, "Okay, Mr. Huang, and Mr. Liang, you all go out, I will stay here for a while next." "Yes." After hearing this, the two retreated. Mr. Huang, when they left the granary, Liang Qian was puzzled. "What does the Lord want?" "Don't worry about these." Huang Taizheng shook his head and did not answer. In a flash, 2 days passed. Chen Ronghuo stood in front of a granary and stretched out his left hand. Then the crescent soybean seeds in front of the granary in front of him, under the control of his soul power, all flew up. Like a river, it flowed through the palm of his left hand. As it flowed, a large number of attributes such as high yield, shortened cycle, enhanced vitality and so on quickly merged into these seeds from Chen Ronghuo's hand. Mutated crescent soybean seeds, high yield add 4, shortened cycle add 3, enhanced lift add 3. After the seeds are planted, a good harvest can be harvested in 2 months. One piece of land can be planted 5 times a year. After everything was over, Chen Ronghuo let out a long breath. Doing this is also a tiring job. But after this time, these seeds will mutate, plant them, and regenerate seeds, and they will be handed over to his subordinates to select. In the future, he won't have to go through so much trouble like this time. Thinking of this, he turned and walked out of the granary. Liang Qian, who had been waiting outside for the past 2 days, looked a little strange when he saw Chen Ronghuo coming out. "I don't know what Chen Ronghuo did in the granary these 2 days, why did he come out after 2 full days? Thanks to ZZG for the 500 coin reward, and for the 200 coin reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Dopang. Chapter 130. Chen Ronghuo looked at Liang Qian and said, "I have processed the seeds in the granary. You can take a look and use them for experiments, but don't let them leak out." Processing seeds? Liang Qian was slightly startled. According to what Chen Ronghuo said that day, he was a ghost and god ghost warrior. Can a ghost and god sorcerer also process crop seeds like a wood sorcerer? Thinking of this, he made a promise to Chen Ronghuo, and then hurried into the granary after Chen Ronghuo left. But after entering the granary, he looked at the seeds in the granary, and frowned when he saw that more than half of them were missing. It was early morning when Chen Ronghuo left the granary. But he thought about it and walked towards the cell again. After arriving at the cell, the guards in the cell were all startled when they saw him. Before, Chen Ronghuo had figured out the cultivation of everyone in the cell. After waking up, those whose cultivation he had discovered talked about it, claiming that their qi and blood, which they had cultivated for many years, had all disappeared. As prison guards, how could they not know? But Chen Ronghuo told them not to say much, so they could only suppress it in their hearts and dare not discuss it. Chen Ronghuo did not say anything. After he took the key from the prison boss, he carried the fat cat and walked into the cell again. "It's been 3 days, and we are fine. Last time, the man surnamed Chen let the ghosts and gods he raised sucked away all our qi and blood. Now that we have no cultivation, he should not let those ghosts and gods come again, right?" Someone in the cell spoke. Before, their qi and blood disappeared, and everyone thought it was the ghosts and gods raised by Chen Ronghuo. After all, before this, Chen Ronghuo claimed that he was a ghost and god sorcerer. After Chen Ronghuo entered the cell, he heard this voice from afar, and a smile suddenly appeared on his face. He learned from the book A Brief History of the World of Gods that this world is far from being as simple as it seems. The gods in this world are not good gods. It can even be said that there are very few real good gods. Most gods have their own purposes and are not selfless. In addition to many evil gods, this world also has many evil lives. Under the flood of these evil lives, humans in many places are in danger. In comparison, Shiriki Island is already a very safe place. However, even so, there are many strange demons appearing on Shiriki Island every year, flooding everywhere. At the same time, among the lords of more than a dozen important towns on Shiriki Island, I am afraid that more than half of them have practiced various evil secrets. Therefore, in such an environment, he does not have to worry about being classified as an evil camp and becoming the target of public criticism. Whoosh! While thinking this, Fat Cat was released by him again. Turned into a swift shadow and rushed into the depths of the cell. In a short time, all the people inside were knocked to the ground. These people had lost all their cultivation. After the Fat Cat shrank, they could not see anything at all. After that, Chen Ronghuo walked in. He selected a few people and found out some attributes from them. Acting always has to be more realistic. Don't tell others about what happened here. After it was over, he walked out of the cell and instructed his men again. After a while, he would let some people in the cell go and let them go to Zhou Yuanhua. By then, the news about the ghost sorcerer and his ability to absorb people's cultivation would definitely spread. But the news from these people and from his men were two completely different concepts. Meow. After leaving the cell, the Fat Cat suddenly rubbed his head in his arms. It seemed a little aggrieved. It felt that its master was paying less and less attention to it. It tried so hard to help Chen Ronghuo, but Chen Ronghuo hadn't made it a delicious meal for so many days. Before it signed the contract with Chen Ronghuo was so good to it. But after signing the contract, Chen Ronghuo was slightly stunned when he felt the Fat Cat's emotions. Then he rubbed its little head and said, "You want to eat delicious food, right? Wait, I'll ask someone to catch live fish for you, and then you can eat enough." These days, he was indeed too busy and neglected this little guy. Hearing Chen Ronghuo's words, the Fat Cat's eyes lit up, and the negative emotions just now disappeared immediately, leaving no trace. Sometimes, it is so easy to fool. An hour later, after Chen Ronghuo let the Fat Cat eat a big meal, he did not go anywhere else, but went directly back to the secret room of the Lord's mansion. In the secret room, he sat on the mat for cultivation and mobilized the Baron mark between his eyebrows. Before the retreat, he had used his Baron's mark to take out some faith power from the Lord's statue. The faith power he took out was not the faith power gathered by the Lord's statue during this period. It was the faith power that Zhou Yuanhua had left in Ziahe village. The faith power that Chen Ronghuo had collected with the Lord's statue during this period was too mottled. Although it was also useful for cultivation. But compared with the faith power left by Zhou Yuanhua, the difference was definitely dozens of times, or even dozens of times. The faith power flowed from the Baron's mark into his soul sea. In the soul sea, the dark star condensed by the dark star meditation technique was suspended in the depths. After seeing the power of faith enter the soul sea, it immediately accelerated its rotation and swallowed all the power of faith. Shortly after swallowing the power of faith, it fed back a trace of pure soul power to Chen Ronghuo while the light was slightly shining. The power of faith is an extremely magical power. After being refined, it can be transformed into almost any kind of power. One day passed. Chen Ronghuo slowly opened his eyes. Immediately, a hint of depth disappeared from his eyes. Then he sighed softly. After reaching the second level of cultivation, it became countless times more difficult to improve the cultivation than before. Of course, if there is enough power of faith to assist, he estimates that in a few months, he will be able to reach the middle stage from the early stage of the second level. but if he practices with all his strength, the part of the power of faith left by Xuanhuan is estimated to be enough for him to practice for 2 months. Thinking of this, he narrowed his eyes, stood up, and walked out of the secret room. Outside at this time, the sun was rising in the east. He first looked to the northwest. To the northwest was Xuanhuan's Hongshaling town, which was connected to Hongyu village. At the same time, in the north, was Bei's town, which was next to Qinjian village. Then, Hongshaling town and Bei's town were both adjacent to an important town, Taixu important town. After looking at these two directions with flashing eyes, Chen Ronghuo turned his head and looked to the east. Thanks to Moueshi for the 500 coin reward, and the book friend Zhenling for the 100 coin reward. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 131. To the east, connected to the affiliated village of Greenwater Bay Town, Giant Crocodile Village, is another town, Black Tiger Town. That is the town where the spy he killed not long ago is located. Further east of Black Tiger Town is Tongluo Town, one of the dozen important towns on Beiwu Island. And Angsha Town, Beishi Town, and Black Tiger Town are all the towns bordering Greenwater Bay Town. Because Greenwater Bay Town is the southernmost part of Beiwu Island. Further south, there is a vast ocean. Chen Ronghuo looked in the direction of these territories, his eyes narrowed slightly. Today is the 10th day since he became the Lord. At this time, he estimated that the village chiefs of the nearby villages should have arrived. And soon, he will implement the plan to build another town. The establishment of a new town cannot fail to attract the attention of several nearby lords. In particular, he also has plans to promote new varieties of high-yield crops in his own territory. This plan must not be concealed for too long. Once this new crop variety is exposed, it is almost certain that it will attract the covetousness of these people. Even more than these few towns. Once the farther Taixu and Tongluo towns know about it, they will definitely not let go of this treasure that can be called a strategic material. At that time, he will surely face the biggest crisis since he came to this world. Lord, the village chiefs of more than a dozen villages have arrived and are now in the meeting hall. At this time, Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui came from a distance. I know. Chen Ronghuo nodded. Then he looked into the distance again. He has the ancient book, which can deduce where all kinds of resources that are beneficial to his cultivation are. But he has tried it. After he advanced to the second level, although he can also deduce where there are treasures that can quickly improve his cultivation, the dangers hidden in the places where those treasures are located are not something he can deal with now. Therefore, developing the territory is his best choice now. Otherwise, even if his current aptitude is already extremely high, what realm can he reach in 300 years? After becoming a third-level cultivator, he can have a lifespan of 300 years. However, there are definitely many third-level cultivators who have not been able to break through to the fourth level until they die of old age. However, even if he can reach the fourth level within 300 years, how much can he do after the passage between the two worlds is opened? He is still just a pawn. So, he must seize the opportunity now. If he does not seize the opportunity now, he may not have a chance to fight when the turmoil caused by the fall of the White Mist Earl in the future stabilizes. Now that the White Mist Earl has fallen, almost all the major forces on the White Mist Island are fighting each other to become the new Earl. He already knows. Among these major forces, the most powerful are the forces of the 3 descendants left by the White Mist Earl, and the 13 lords of the important towns on the original White Mist Island. Compared with those forces, he can be said to be extremely weak now. But although he was weak, he still had the will to fight. But if he wanted to have the qualifications to fight, he had to develop his territory into an important town first. Turning around, he took Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui and walked towards the meeting hall. At the same time, Black Tiger Town. How is the matter I asked you to investigate? In the meeting hall of Black Tiger Town, a young man in gorgeous clothes sat on the Lord's throne. He stroked the throne and asked an old man in black below. The old man in black replied, "My lord, 2 of the spies I sent to Greenwater Bay Town have returned, and another did not return at the agreed time. Most of them are in danger." The young man in gorgeous clothes was Xuanhuan, the lord of Black Tiger Town. He did not care about the spy killed by Chen Ronghuo, but knocked on the armrest of the throne and continued to ask, "What information did the 2 people who came back find out about Chen Ronghuo?" There was also a handsome young man at his starting point. But this young man not only wore a white robe, but also had white hair. The white-haired young man shook his head slightly when he saw that Xuanhuan didn't even care about the spy. "My lord, at this time," the old man in black replied, "the 2 people who came back said that Greenwater Bay Town is now completely controlled by Chen Ronghuo. As for the news about Chen Ronghuo himself, because Chen Ronghuo has been in seclusion since he took over as the lord of Greenwater Bay Town, the 2 people only spread the news that he might be a ghost magician and that he has a cat-like demon under his command that can grow bigger." The old man in black described the general situation of Greenwater Bay Town in a slow narration. Ghost magician. After listening to the old man in black's magic, Xuanhuan sneered. Then he suddenly looked at the white-haired young man and said, "Zhenkinzan, when my father was here, you said that Zhou Yuanhua was scheming and very secretive, and you kept persuading him not to attack Greenwater Bay Town. Now Zhou Yuanhua has fallen into the hands of this Chen Ronghuo who came out of nowhere. You are not going to persuade me not to attack Greenwater Bay Town again, are you?" The white-haired young man frowned slightly. He glanced at Xuanhuan and said, "Zhou Yuanhua is indeed scheming and very secretive. This Chen Ronghuo who suddenly appeared can make Zhou Yuanhua fall flat on his face, so he must not be underestimated. Therefore, if the Lord wants to deal with him, he also hopes to think twice before acting. Think before you act." Xuanhuan's eyes widened when he heard this, and a red light loomed. "Now that traitor has been cursed to death by my aunt with a secret curse, and the war on Beiwu Island has begun, it is the best time for our magic family to revive. You still want me to think twice before I act? If I wait any longer, I'm afraid that the traitor's descendants will suppress the war and become the new Earl of Beiwu in a few years." Xuanhuan's voice was fierce. But the content revealed in his words was far more ferocious than his voice. Judging from the meaning of his words, his surname should not be Xue, but Mole. At the same time, this time the death of Earl Beiwu was actually caused by his great-aunt. If this news spreads outside, I am afraid that the entire Beiwu Island will be shaken. Lord, Qian-san of the White Robe Formation frowned, "Your magically family has been in decline for too long. If you want to take advantage of this war and become the new Earl of Beiwu Island, you have to activate the secret vault and use those powerful secret treasures and puppets. But the situation is still unclear. If you use those things rashly, once people find out, you will definitely become the target of public criticism. Don't I know what you're talking about?" Xuanhuan's expression grew colder. "Or do you think that I have to use those things just to attack an ordinary town?" Thanks to Ruao11 for the 500 coin reward at